Welcome to Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. Once again, we are back here Tuesday for Virtual Lunch. And today we're going to be focusing on how to reinvent exhibits and or trade shows, and also reinventing our own businesses. Excuse me. And we've got a guest that's going to hop on with us here in just a few minutes. But first, I want to go through a few kind of preliminary things, and then we'll jump into our interview. But I want to share some links with you first. Like I said, today's focus is on reinventing the trade show industry and how we're going to have to change. And I hate the word pivot. Everybody's using that, but things that we're going to have to reinvent and reimagine going forward. So, and we've talked about that on some previous virtual lunches, but today we're going to take a little different approach. But I want to share a few links with you first. Alan, my husband, is behind the scenes. He's going to be sharing these links in the comments, which I will put up on screen for you. But first off, our friends at Ion Exhibits sent me some information about their custom masks. And it's interesting, a couple weeks ago in Expo Chat, in our weekly Twitter chat, Expo Chat, the subject of custom masks came up, branded masks, and it was very hotly divided. Some people were like, no way do I want my brand on a mask. I don't know what's the problem. I think, especially when you see this picture I'm going to put up in just a second, I think these look so, so cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put that picture up so you can see it. And I will take the banner down for now. But these, I think, are so classy. So this is an example of, shifting gears, because Ion normally, does exhibit displays and fabric graphics. Well, now they're doing fabric graphics, but they're making these custom masks. But I just think these are so classy and so stylish and on brand. So I think they look great. So anyway, I wanted to show that, and then Alan's going to put that link up so I can share the link with you of where you can go learn more about it. The other cool thing about their custom branded masks, they've got such a low minimum. It's only 30, and you would think to be able to get masks like that, you'd have to buy hundreds, to make them customized. But anyway, I thought those were really cool. So Alan, do we have that yet? Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's the link, and it's in the Facebook comments. If you're watching us on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, I will add those links in on YouTube later. The way the system works is it just obviously just shows up in whichever platform you're on. But anyway, so there you go. So you can go check that out. And then the next thing I want to talk about is Classic Exhibits, which is a exhibits manufacturer. And they have also made a shift. They are now using the same materials, creating dividers for offices. And they've created a whole new brand called PlaceLyft. Alan's going to put that link in the comments. But this is a link to a YouTube video that you can go check out. And there we go. So there's the link for that. So you can go watch. It's just like a little 2.5-minute video, but it's so cool. Imagine your office redesigned where you've got not only, divider walls, but they're branded. They can be branded. They can be fabric with LED panels. They can be clear plexi, they can be whiteboards, all different kinds of things. So, it's been really fun to watch how companies are shifting gears. And, especially in the case of Classic going and doing PlaceLyft, it's the same materials, it's the same stuff. They're just reimagining it. And that's what I want us to focus on today, is reimagining our businesses. So on that, I have a guest here with us today. So I'm going to bring on Tina from Large Printing.
Hi.
So Tina, welcome to the cafe.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been quite the roller coaster ride over the past few months with responding to COVID and having to pivot your entire business into something new.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. So the first pivot was to face shields. We have an array of digital cutters. So we were able to use, again, all the same materials like you talked about and make face shields. And we got those out to the public and to hospitals and the like. So we sold thousands of those, which kept us in business and kept the lights going, which was nice.
Well, and you're kind of skipping over kind of the most important part. How quickly did you get
Yeah.
that?
Well, yeah.
That's the most amazing part, I think.
That was actually going to be my main theme, is just how quickly we've had to shift. The face shields went from concept to reality in 3 days.
It's incredible.
We got it on the market in 5 days.
Wow.
And so we went from being people were arguing about whether print businesses were considered essential or not at the beginning, back in March. And so one of the ways you made sure that you were absolutely essential was you went to production for essential items.
Right.
And so then, of course, we provide signage and that sort of thing for other essential businesses. So we pivoted rather quickly, and our creative team, Tom Krempa, that you may or may not know, he's kind of a genius when it comes to figuring out ways to make things and to make them better. He came up with the design for the face shield, and we were able to get to production really quickly. And we can make 1,000 a day, like right off the bat. We could produce 1,000 a day. So that was pretty awesome.
That's incredible. And you're branding those too as well.
Yes, we are. So one of the nice things, and this is kind of a new launch for it, right? So it's got the KC Face Shields logo on there, but it could be any logo on that visor. So the idea being, restaurants in the area aren't requiring face masks, at least in Kansas City. They require face coverings.
Mm-hmm.
Would actually allow you to have a clear view of the person's face when you're ordering. Makes it easier to understand them, and you get to brand your logo. So we've gotten a few orders out there, so that's nice. We did just launch it last week to be able to brand products like that.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I can also see that might be a good option in a trade show environment as well, because like you said, you can still see, you can interact, you can feel a little more confident with, facial expressions and all that kind of thing. So, and we don't know yet, because as of this point, there's really not much of any trade shows that we're looking forward to, unfortunately. But, as the first shows do start to come back, I could see that would be a really good option for the booth staff.
Yeah, I think the face shield is really nice because, again, you get to see facial features, and it's absolutely, you can make it attractive, and we can actually print right in this area, like kind of a logo there. So we can print on the plastic or the PVC and really do a big job with branding. The other thing we've been branding, so we've actually started manufacturing the green screens, which we could always do, but one of the nice things is to be able to design a step and repeat with a logo on it.
Oh, right.
It buys the green screen. So you buy the green screen, you get the digital image that comes with it. Most big companies already have that art, but in the event that you're a smaller organization and you want one, we can help with that. We've just come up with some kind of cool things that you wouldn't think about. It's like we're constantly trying to think about, what do people need now, right?
Right.
And that we can provide. So sneeze guards has been a big item lately that we make, and you can't really see that because of my green screen background. Because it's clear, you can.
Yeah, exactly. The green screen goes right through it.
Right. But also the hanging dividers, which...
Yes, I have a photo of that.
Yeah. So we're putting these up in restaurants throughout town, and this kind of reminded me of the product you were talking about a little while ago, because they can go anywhere. You can set them on, you can put them in offices. We were doing them for restaurants because we have so many restaurant customers around town, and they're custom sizes and custom hangers, and we can brand them as well. We can print right on them, or we put decals. Just depends. I was also thinking of this for trade show booths as well. It might make a really good display. Like if you wanted to create a virtual room, if you will, do a lot with these hanging dividers and print right.
Or if you had stations, various stations in your
Exactly.
exhibit and you wanted to divide those up.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the challenge in the trade show booth is the hanging part, but I'm sure you've got also some kind of framework that you can put those on as well.
Oh, sure. Well, and the other thing, I mean, the really nice thing you could use for it is something similar to a mosquito banner. So you just use clear a clear hanging divider, but on a mosquito banner. So you just stand it right up. It'll just
Mm-hmm.
fold up and stand there on its own.
True.
Let's see.
And then I know you're also doing the floor decals as well.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thing.
Okay. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, that's okay. Hey, you are all over it. Keep me moving along. I appreciate that. Floor graphics have been really big, as you might imagine. Most stores, actually all stores, are having to put these in. So we're getting a lot of orders for floor graphics. One of the things that we did, and I think a lot of companies did this too, but one of the things that we've had to do is just the speed of creativity has just accelerated dramatically during this time. So our designers are constantly coming up with graphics that people might be interested in just buying, because people don't have the time to send it to their designers and to then send it to us to print. So they want to be able to just go to our website and click and buy and get it to them. So in addition to all the design work and all the great work the team is doing, we've had to update our ERP system so that it could accommodate these online orders and update all of our website ordering processes. All these products get out there, which means that you've done a ton for photography, which means our photographers are busier than they've ever been, which
Oh, wow.
We had to set up a whole photo lab. So
wow.
Yeah, it's been and you have to do it quickly. I mean, it's not like you can wait. It was it's funny. I tell people that as the director of marketing, I really I joined the team to do that, to get the word out and do the networking, that sort of thing. I never knew that marketing could be such a critical role in an organization.
Yes.
I have worked more hours in the past 3 months than I have since I was in my 20s and making a name for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Only I'm not 20 anymore.
Well, and I think that really what you said is key, because I keep saying that too. It's like, of course, I produced the virtual event Trailblazers Summit, which was like pretty much 7 days a week for a month, and working like 12-hour days. So yeah, I feel like I have worked more during these times than I normally do, but like you said, it's just because there's so many things, and you have to make the switch, and you have to do these things. There's no procrastination allowed.
Right.
I mean, it's like when you have an idea, you got to act on it now. And I think that's a key right now, is that companies need to take advantage of whatever they can, whatever opportunities they see. Like you said, you started seeing opportunities, and so you started immediately thinking, how can we get this out there? How can we make this happen? How can we get it out there? And in some cases this week,
Well, along those lines, our latest and greatest product that we just came up with on Friday is a POP display for face shields. And so, you can sell them, you can get them at grocery stores and the like, or like for trade shows, when those do come back, if you wanted to have some for your customers as takeaways, as leave behinds, it's pretty easy to get a box of 25 of those and have them hanging out. We ship them in boxes of 100.
Mm-hmm.
Just a nice giveaway.
And I could see that, especially like if you're an exhibitor in a manufacturing show, or somewhere where the people coming through your booth would be people who would really need to have those on the job, and that way it would be branded with your company, and they would all take them back to their workplace. And so yeah, I see a lot of potential for that.
And if you're looking for a low-cost alternative, and I know other companies are doing this, it's not just us. I just, obviously like ours better, is they're called ear savers. So everybody's wearing all the face
got
masks.
a photo of that too here.
Yeah, they're called ear savers, and you can just print your logo right on it, and they actually make it more comfortable to wear face masks all day.
Mm-hmm.
So the medical community really likes these.
Well, and that's a good example too of, you've got your low end gift, and then you've got your more high end VIP gift of the actual face shield itself. So
Right.
gives you different options.
Yeah, it's been a lot of creativity and getting it turned around quickly, and then getting all the systems to support it, because you can't just do one thing without the other.
Well, and that's true, because it's not just the idea itself, or it's not just the product itself. It's all the backstory, all the behind the scenes things that have to take place too. But you guys have done an awesome job. And I also want to remind, if anybody hasn't seen it, I actually did, before everything went crazy in the world last fall, I went and did a video tour of large printing, because they're right here in Kansas City. So if you haven't caught that, go to tradeshowinsights.com, to the blog, and you can just do a search for large printing, and you'll find that video. You can go watch a video tour of some of the more traditional things that they do, which I'm sure you're still doing a lot of those same things, as well as all these new things that you've added in.
Oh, sure. So. Absolutely. Yeah, that video was fantastic. Thank you again for doing that. It really did show off and highlight all of our traditional items, like those big cutouts. We still have that cutout standing upstairs.
Well, you're very welcome. It was fun. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of cool things that you guys do on a regular basis. So, well, Tina, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us for lunch today and share your story. So I hope that it's been an inspiration to some of our people here in the cafe. So anyway, thanks again. And I will let you get back to what you need to do. And we're going to move on with our lunch. So,
well, thanks for including me.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, so we are going to go ahead. So if you're watching it, go ahead. I know we had a little bit of a non-traditional start this week. So introduce yourself in the comments. Tell us where you're from. And this is going to be a new format we're going to do this summer, is bringing guests on. So, Tina has been one of our regulars in the virtual lunch since the beginning. She's here almost every week. So I wanted to start out with her. But if you have a story to tell of things that you've been doing at your company, just let me know, and we'll get you on the list for future lunch. So, but I want to kind of continue on some of our other things I wanted to share just real quick. There's a new concept called revenge attending. And if you haven't heard this term, I hadn't heard this term till last week, but I guess it kind of stemmed from, there's a term called revenge buying, I guess. So they've started to see, like in Asia where things opened up first, people are going out and they're buying just because, I think revenge is kind of a weird term, but anyway, they're buying just because they're starved for shopping. They just want to go shopping. And so some people are predicting that there's going to be revenge attending. So this is a post from Event Manager blog. And the concept is, just like when you're on a starvation diet, if you've gone several days without eating and then all of a sudden you just it just like explodes and you binge. That's the theory with the retail buying, but then also with the idea of that people will just be dying to go somewhere and attend something. And so they're going to just like go to every event they can find. So it's just kind of an interesting principle. So anyway, I recommend you go check that article out. It's kind of an interesting theory. And then a couple of things, shows are constantly in the news. As of yesterday, late last night, IMTS, major manufacturing show coming up in September in Chicago, has been canceled. We're talking 129,000 attendees and millions of dollars in the Chicago economy. So, it'll be interesting. They've got plans for some virtual elements, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes together. But they only meet every 2 years. So by canceling now, they're not going to have another show until 22. So, it's tough for everybody. But on the flip side, CES, which of course their show doesn't roll around again until January, but they've announced they are planning an in-person show. Of course, a lot could change between now and January, but they are, moving forward and planning their January show. Of course, part of that reason is that the Las Vegas Convention Center has put, millions of dollars into their renovation and expansion, mainly for major shows such as CES. I mean, that's, obviously one of the biggies. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So here's the link for that. And again, I know that some of these are crazy long links. So, check the comments, or if you're on YouTube, we'll post them later, or you can Google it or whatever. But so those are some show updates. And then the Orange County Convention Center in Florida is they're doing we've had over the last few weeks, we've shared a lot of different what do I want to say, safety and sanitization plans of different venues. Well, Orange County is going to do some interesting things. They're going to use ozonated, or however you say that, basically ozone infused water to clean. They're going to use UV lights to kill germs. Here's the link for that. And this is an actual PDF that you can download. So especially if you have any shows that are scheduled at Orange County, it'd be good to go ahead and download that, take a look. They're going to have heavy duty floor scrubbers. And this is something that I think they're the first ones I've seen actually talk about this. But it's something, being a speaker and also having background in AV, my husband also has background in AV, that was one of the first things we said is, how do you sanitize a microphone? Like right here, mine, you can't see, it's just a little bit too far off screen, but, I have my podcasting mic, and I have a spit screen, I think that's what you call it. Anyway, I have a screen over mine, but, when you're using a microphone, how do you sanitize that? Well, that's, they don't get into specifics, obviously, but that is something that they did talk about, at least in the Orange County, is that all the microphones will be sanitized. So anyway, interesting. Okay, so moving on. Some of you may have seen on LinkedIn last week, I shared a quote that I had seen from somebody else. And if you want to, you can go back to my LinkedIn feed and you can look at the whole quote. But basically the idea was, what if we stop saying, I want a do-over, and say, what if 2020 is the year that forces us to grow? And I thought that was a really interesting perspective, because as you heard from Tina, they've had to grow and change and, reinvent themselves several times over the last 3 months. And I know a lot of us are feeling that way. I mean, that's where Virtual Lunch came from. That's where my Virtual Event Trailblazer Summit came from. So there's lots of things that we're all doing to change and grow and, learn new skills and all those kinds of things. So, what if we looked at it from that perspective and that lens? And, they say that the Renaissance, the Renaissance in Europe, that's how it came about, was it followed a time of the plague. So everybody was re-energized and creative and inspired, basically. So, what if we took that framework? And so that's why I wanted to make that kind of our focus today. A couple other things as far as news I want to go through real quick is that Las Vegas began reopening last week on Thursday. And so the hotels there are opening in stages. Alan, I'll have you go ahead and hop in that link for the Wynn while I finish this. But so their hotel business, their travel business in Vegas was down by 97% in April. I mean, that's just, mind blowing. But they're starting to reopen. The CEO of MGM made a comment last week that he will consider it a success if visitors go home and say it was safe, it was fun, and it's still the Vegas I know. So that's, that's what their goal is. But the link that we're going to put up here from the Wynn, which several weeks ago, you may remember that we talked about their safety plan, and they had I think it was 30 some pages. It was a very extensive plan, but they now have done a video to actually show. And so it's kind of interesting to actually see some of these things in practice of how they're actually implementing. Pretty extensive. Now, some of this, keep in mind, it's the Wynn. So they've got a budget to do things that probably most hotels can't. But it's just really interesting to see what all they're doing to really think it all through. And it's a really good role model to kind of see what can be done. And from Cardi Foursome, which I think I know maybe who this is, 2020 is providing us a great opportunity to work on our businesses to make them better for the future. Relook at how we handle projects, how we apply staff skills, etc. Yes, definitely. And, I think, down the road, we may all look back and, how they call it the Great Depression back in the 30s. Well, we may call this the Great Pause, because it is like the entire world pressed pause and we all had time to think, except for some of us, like the crew at Large Printing. I don't think they've had a lot of time to think. They've been really busy. But, it is giving us all a time to reevaluate and revamp. And yes, my heart breaks for some of my friends in the trade show industry, because, the things that have to be done face to face, they're not able to do some of the things that some of the rest of us are. But I think it's really important that we do all take time and just figure out, heaven forbid this ever happens again, but what can we do to make ourselves more prepared and more on more steady footing for the future, I think is one good thing to keep in mind. Also, Alan, I'll have you put up the CEIR stats. The Center for Exhibition Industry Research has actually come out with their Q1 report, which, as we all would assume, was not rosy. But keep in mind, it's not as horrible as you might think, partly because we did still have shows in January and February and the first couple weeks of March, including ConExpo, which is, huge. So that did help boost the numbers up, but they basically lay it all out and just give the predictions and the stats of where everything is. So I recommend, if you haven't had a chance, go check that out. And then this I thought was interesting. Ellen, I'll have you put up the one about our industry isn't coming back like yours. I thought this was a really interesting perspective. Now, this article was written more from the live events, concerts, festivals, that kind of thing perspective. But I think it really is a good, because Alan and I, for those who don't know, Alan was in charge of events at a hotel. So he's been home since March, have no idea when he might go back. As a trade show marketing consultant and trainer, my client shows are all on hold or canceled. So, we tend to live in this bubble, and those of you here with us in lunch, I mean, I'm sure, from our perspective, we tend to think that everybody is in the same boat that we are. And it's kind of hard to understand that other people don't realize how much this has hurt our industry, because their lives are, a lot of people, their jobs never did stop. Some of them, they may have worked from home. Maybe now they're back at the office, which is why, people like Tina and Classic and some of the other companies, are busy building things for those offices. But we tend to think that everybody is where we are, and they really don't understand. So I think this article was really good. You might be able to pull some points out of it that you can share with some of your friends and family who really don't understand how hard our industry has been hit. Because, somebody I heard say, we were first out first to get kicked out of the economy, and we may be one of the last to come back in because, restaurants and retail have started back up now. Trade shows and events and conferences are still a long ways away. So I think it's important that we do advocate for ourselves and make sure people understand and are sympathetic to where we're at. The other thing in that article was interesting. He did go over 4 points of things that we need to be doing during this time. And we've already talked about some of it. One is rest, which some of us are not getting a lot of because we're busy. But, rest and recharge and rethink. Communicate, which we talked about that a few weeks ago, the importance of continuing the communication with your clients, with your staff, with your suppliers, keep those lines of communication open. Creating, which that's definitely what we've been talking about today. I mentioned the Renaissance earlier. It's like, this is now, we're in the middle of a creative Renaissance. I mean, the ingenuity that's coming out has just been amazing. And then the last thing is make your voices known, which is what I talked about that this whole article was about. So, those are some really good things to keep in mind. And then the last link that I want to share, Alan, is the floor plan. So this was a really interesting article. It's from BizBash, and it's geared a little bit more towards the conference side of things, but it really has some thought-provoking, and this is one of these really crazy long ones. But again, if you go to BizBash, I'm sure you can Google it, or it should be on the front row or front page. But they talk about, if we go with the 6-foot calculation, they actually have a video on there that walks through the calculation. So like taking a table of 8 round, table for 8 round, scales down to a table for 3. So, it's going to be interesting. Now, the one thing is, we know that right off, we're probably not going to have the attendance that we used to have at events. So we may be able to still fit the same, the right amount of people in a room because there's less people to work with. But it just interesting challenges. But the other thing that they presented in this article that I thought was really cool was that they have they suggest Court Furniture. They had a representative from Court Furniture who said, if you're going to have to spread everybody out in a session room, why not give them comfy chairs, give them their own little cockpit station, basically, with a comfy chair and a table and a charging station. And then that's their spot. So instead of everybody moving around for breakout rooms, that's their spot. And then they all have the the headsets, and they can basically dial in to whichever session they want to listen to. So kind of an interesting proposal. So again, from Cardi Foursome, historically, trade shows and events take about 9 months longer than other industries to return to full speed. The tech bubble, 9/11, and the 2009 recession all proved that. Yeah. So, I think the most exciting thing will be when the first show happens. I think the entire industry will celebrate whoever that first show is to get back underway. And we don't know at this point, we don't know exactly when that'll be. We don't know who that will be. But, I think the whole industry collectively, even if it happens to be a competitor show, I think we'll all be cheering whenever that first show is held at whatever convention center it is. You can hear shouts go up from across the country, I think, of everybody in the trade show world. But anyway, so I think those were all the links for today that I had that I wanted to share. But, I wanted today to be, not only just news and sharing, what's going on like we always do at our virtual lunches, but I wanted to give you some inspiration and some insights, and to help you see that there's so many things that we can be doing during this time, and really taking advantage of it and finding ways to be creative and to reinvent our industry, because, we don't know what direction it's going to take, but we can sure be ready for when we do restart. So I hope that's encouraged you today, and I want you to have a great week, and then come back next Tuesday. Join us again for virtual lunch at noon Central every Tuesday. For now, I'm thinking I may take the month of July off just to take a break, or at least take some weeks off. But anyway, we'll be back here next Tuesday, so we hope to see you then. And until then, have a great week. Bye.